Stephanie Starr, new basement tape producer. As you can see, summer's arrived here in Maynard, and DECworld is over, but certainly not forgotten. What we have for you today is a tape about DECworld and what you and your customers saw there. We have a series of demos for you from both internal and external people, and following each demo you'll see a section with additional information, be it telephone numbers for external vendors or public directories and notes files for internal. As you'll see on the map, most of these demos took place in the Unix area. Following the demos, you'll see one of the sessions that was taped at DECworld. The name of that session is the Digital Microsoft Strategic Relationship. And what you'll see is a Microsoft executive and David Stone of Digital really get into the heart of the relationship and give you a lot of detail on it. It's a great piece and it's really worth watching. Well, I think it's time for me to get back to my sunshine because these New England summers are just a little bit too short. I hope you enjoy the tape.
Hi, I'm Susan Stearman and I'm going to talk to you about AVS, the Application Visualization System. This is a typical screen with AVS. It's a software package for doing data visualization. I've already started off a little bit here. We're going to read in a data file that consists of totally numbers. And we're going to end up here with a picture of those numbers in a particular manner. We can look at the numbers in many different variety of ways. AVS provides us with a large number of visualization techniques. My data file consists of points and a data number. And I go through this program here, which I'm highlighting with the mouse, is a flow diagram or a network of modules. The components of AVS are called modules. Each module does a particular function, or it can be a whole application or something halfway in between. I can move this dial over here in the control panel where all of the user interface for the modules shows up and select a new data value to be investigating, and a new picture comes up on the screen. With the DECstation 5000 and the PXG Turbo card, we can dynamically move this object around on the screen. You can see it's a very interesting looking object. It happens to be hydrogen molecule electron density. I can investigate many different aspects of this data set just by moving the dials around and redrawing the pictures. If I decide that I want to look at the same data in a different manner, I can add new modules to this particular network. Here I have a library of modules. These are the modules that come with AVS as a default of the base system. There are 150 modules in the base system. Modules fall into 4 basic categories: data input, data filters or massaging the data type of modules, data mappers, that is modules that map data into a visual primitive, and then data output or rendering modules. Let me pull down a couple of extra modules to this network and show you how quick and easy it is to build these networks up. I select a module from the module library and I drag it into the work area. I'm selecting a color map module and an arbitrary slicer module. Very simply, I connect these together. You'll notice that the connection line highlights when I move the mouse. In this particular case, I have 3 different paths that I can potentially choose. As I move the mouse, it highlights each one. When I release the mouse button, the highlighted path is selected. Okay? Now we have a completed network. We have a data input module that then sends the data down to through 2 different paths, one to create that surface that we've already seen and the other to create the arbitrary slicer. Let's bring up the image window again, go to the slicer module, and we can see the slice plane moving dynamically through that module. Now what does a slice plane do? Basically what it does is it colors a 2D slice through the data set based on the value in the data set at that particular location. So basically AVS gives you the ability to read in data and visualize it so that you can understand your data much more quickly and much more completely. Any kind of data that your customer has can be visualized in AVS. We can look at image data, such as MRI scans from hospital data. Radio telescopes can take pictures from outer space. Satellites take pictures of the Earth from high up. Any of these kinds of image types of data can be read into this system and visualized. Edge detections, contrasting, those kinds of operations can be performed on the data when once it's read into the system. So it's a very flexible application, and it allows you to deal with data visualization at many, many different levels. If you are interested in showing this to your customer, you can get demo copies. They're available on the network. We have a notes file on the DSS DEV ::AVS is the notes file. And we will be announcing the availability of AVS 4.0 very shortly in Sales Update. The Sales Update article will include information about getting a customer testimonial video. And I thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Tom Scrivener from Market Focused Technologies, and today I'm going to be showing you a little bit about the visual programming environment, VPE. Market Focused Technologies has its main offices located in San Diego and another office on the East Coast in Washington, D.C., and we are a division of Science Applications International Corporation. VPE is a rapid development environment designed for building complex applications, and you'll be seeing several facets of that today, including some of our advanced development tools that are visual in nature, portability, concurrent links to multiple databases, and I think an excellent use for your customers in interactive multimedia applications. As you know, there are many ways that one can develop a system. These are some of the more traditional methods for distributed computing solutions involving multimedia. We believe VPE is a superior alternative. One way we can see this to start is a little bit of on the foundation of VPE. VPE is a balanced set of four things: dynamic SQL access to all of the major Unix relational databases, as well as remote connections on VMS to many of these same relational databases. That also has interactive multimedia support in the form of very fast vector graphics and raster graphics. Also supported with the XMedia toolkit is full motion video and audio. We support GUI widgets running on X under either Motif or OpenLook. And what ties all this together is a event-driven rule-based language that manages and controls the look, the feel, the data flow, and the program logic. Okay, with this as a background, let's go on and take a look at some example applications. The first one we'll draw from is a very simple one, selected from a travel planning scenario, and we'll look at what it would take to work with a prospective customer on selecting an application. In this case, we have picked cabin arrangements. Now we're going to select a cruise. Here we have a very short one for the total of only $3,000. If more luxurious accommodations are necessary, those are available, but with the intended price increase. Okay, what we've seen is a very simple, very easy to use application where the user does not have to, quote, learn how to use the computer, one that's very intuitive in nature. This pays off in many respects in reduced training time and also pays off in employee morale. We can proceed on through the workflow by booking the reservations. We've carried the dates of the cruise on through to the application, and we can proceed on to the next step and place reservations for their travel to the point of departure. Here you'll see an electronic form that can be filled out, and we can even compare it with a scanned ticket. One of the many features of VPE that you'll be seeing is our capability for dynamic scaling, no matter whether it's an image, a vector drawing, or a combination of these objects as well as motif widgets. They are all scaled instantly, whether we're talking about a VGA monitor all the way up through a high-resolution monitor, as we're seeing here on the DEC 5000 series. If you feel that VPE can be of assistance to your clients, please feel free to contact us, and we'll work along with you. We have offices, as I've mentioned before, in the East Coast and in the San Diego area. Thank you.
IDE and digital have worked very closely over the last several years, and that relationship is really only getting stronger. What we've seen over the last year is an interest on both parties' part to provide total solutions to customers, not just point-to-point tool integrations, not just one piece of the development lifecycle. And we're really working in concert, I believe, to try to address those needs. DECworld is really an exciting event, and the reason that that's true is because it gives us access to not just a large cross-section of digital customers, but to digital sales representatives as well. We have had the opportunity to participate in DECworld previously, but I'm really excited this time because what we've got to show there is an integration between our integrated structured environment product, which is our base product for analysis and design, and DECfuse. DECfuse is a pretty neat product in and of itself, but I think the real value of having the integration is the ability to show customers how they can take advantage of the flexibility of a development environment like Fuse. And what I mean by that is the ability to take tools that they wish to use and integrate those into the environment at will. They have the opportunity to pick which tools they want to use and plug and play, as they say. IDE is going to be showing the integration between our base product, integrated structured environments, and DECfuse. Specifically, the example that we're going to be using will make use of the DECfuse call graph browser and will allow a customer to actually browse between code and design and understand what's happening with their application. It's a pretty neat example, and it makes use of the message passing technology within DECfuse to show a customer how they really can use the two tools together. IDE is really excited about showing our integration at DECworld because customers are going to have the opportunity to see it in an environment that very much simulates the way that they do business. So they'll see it in a manufacturing environment, in a professional services environment, and they'll have an opportunity to really relate not just the technology, but the approach to the way that they do business. I think the combination of the openness and the flexibility of DECfuse and IDE's own flexibility and the openness of our architecture are what make it possible for customers to take advantage of integrated solutions. I think there are a number of benefits, direct benefits, hard benefits, you want to call them that, to customers that result from the integration between DECfuse and ISE. Fundamentally, there's a savings in terms of the training cost associated with users having to learn multiple tools and avoiding that problem. There's also a benefit through the ability to actually browse back and forth between code and design and not have to spend a lot of time trying to understand their development and environments of their code. There's some real improvements, I think, there in terms of consistency as well by implementing certain methodologies. There are also, I guess, some intangible benefits to the integration that we're doing. And perhaps the most direct one of those is that customers have the opportunity to decide themselves what their future is. They aren't locking themselves into a single choice, and they have the opportunity as a result to really maintain their flexibility. There are a couple of IDE products that won't be shown at DECworld that I think digital reps ought to be interested in. Specifically, we are currently shipping our OOSD, that's Object-Oriented Structured Design product for Ada, on DECstations. That's an Ultrix product. And we are also going to be shipping at the end of May our product on the DECstation, which is the C development environment. You may have heard recently or read recently in Digital Review that we just won their Editor's Choice Award for that product, and I think your customers are going to be really excited about it. I'm hoping that as a result of customer interest at DECworld, that DEC reps will take the initiative to contact our salespeople directly in our local offices or to call us at headquarters. The number that they can reach us at is area code 415-543-0900, and we'd be really happy to put them in touch with the right local representative and make sure that the customer gets all the information that they need.
Hi, I'm Alan Goldman of the DEC System Marketing Organization. I'd like to take a few minutes and tell you about the DEC system, the StorageServer 100 product. The StorageServer 100 is a combination of a rewritable optical library system, a Jukebox, and some storage management software. What we have here is a 20 gigabyte Jukebox, which contains optical platters. These platters are completely rewritable. This is what a platter looks like. This platter, 5 1/4 inch form factor, holds 600 megabytes of information, 300 megabytes per side, industry standard, made by companies such as Sony, Verbatim, Max Optics, and Philips. The system takes 32 of these platters. The larger system, the 95 gigabyte model, will take 144 platters. Multiple jukeboxes are available and can be connected to a single DEC system 5900 or 5240 system. The important part of the system is really the software. Transparent to the applications and the users, the software migrates files from the optical platter to the magnetic disk completely transparently. Users operate only upon the magnetic disk, and the software manages and migrates files on demand and segments of files from optical to magnetic. As the files age and are not used, the files migrate back to optical for further use or further reference, but the magnetic storage is retained for the most frequently used files and therefore better access speeds. Cartridges are removed or inserted into the jukebox via the mail slot right here. The cartridge is inserted and the mechanics will pick the cartridge up, check the label on both sides of the cartridge, and then store it into a storage slot inside the jukebox. When the front panel is secured, only the system manager can remove or insert cartridges, obviously for security purposes. It's important to know some of the digital advantages. Digital is the only company that allows users a full 2 gigabyte file for its network file server. That means even though the platter is only 600 megabytes, 300 per side, we span platters transparently for the users. We offer a fully open network file server, the 5240 or 5900, for general purpose computing as well as being a file server. And we will be upgradable to OSF and Alpha products as well. The product is AIM compliant, the IEEE standard. The system is available, it's shipping now, and we have reference sites available. Please contact us. Again, my name is Alan Goldman. I can be reached at DTN 223-1461 or outside 508-493-1461. Thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon. My name's John Forde. I'm with Workstation-Based Product Marketing. And what we're doing with this demo today is showing the expandability, the upgradability, and the investment protection that's provided by the DECstation family of workstations. To impress upon you that point, we've tried to take the very low end, the baby in the family, the personal DECstation model, and show you through the different dimensions or the different capabilities of the machine. We can build not only a balanced system, but a system that starts under $4,000 and yet will provide, and this is significant, where the competition will not, provide the upgradability to a high-speed bus and to accelerated 3D graphics within the same box. Okay, so the first dimension, or the first piece of functionality, is the actual processor itself. Using the daughter card and motherboard concept, or the daughter board motherboard concept, we have 3 different versions of the CPU that bring us from a 16 spec mark up to a 23 spec mark machine by swapping out one daughter card and putting in an additional one. The memory starts at 8 megabytes on the board and can be increased to multiples of 4 and 16, up to a total of 40 megabytes in the system. By way of graphics, you've got built-in 8-plane grayscale, but yet using the turbo channel, a 50 megabyte per second turbo channel that's implemented on this Maxine system or personal DECstation system, you can add accelerated 2D graphics using the HX board, or you can use accelerated 3D. If you wanted to move from 2D to solid modeling, you can move to the accelerated 3D, and this is the GPX Plus or the GPX Turbo Plus. And again, both these options can be used in the same personal DECstation. The next dimension is storage. You can increase beyond the 7 disks that's capable of being supported with the internal SCSI device or interface. You can add a second controller adapter and support an additional 7 SCSI devices, all within the box utilizing the expandable turbo channel. If you wanted to change the machine from being a workstation to a server, you could increase your disk capacity and use the additional turbo channel slot to put 8 serial lines and 2 parallel lines onto the system, so you could build up the system into an actual server. This entire table is the availability, or shows the availability of turbo channel options, which can plug into these 2 slots on the system. From a competitive perspective, no other system or no other competitor, HP, IBM, Hewlett-Packard, allows that kind of expandability from the low-end system. Most systems bound you either by a very slow bus and the inability to grow in graphics. The ability to do accelerated 3D graphics, 24 planes, is not available in any of the low-end HP, Sun, or IBM systems. And yet with the DECstation 5000, the personal DECstation, you can expand along the dimension of not only CPU performance, but also this graphics capability.
Hi, we're at DECworld today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about DEC OSF 1, which is running behind me on a DECstation 5000 Model 200. DEC OSF 1 version 1 is shipping today. It started shipping in March, and the added value is mostly targeted towards software developers. Here, the idea is to get users who write their own software in ISVs to start porting their applications over to DEC OSF 1. Version 2, which is coming out around the end of the calendar year, and that you'll see first on the alpha stations, which is targeted towards end users. Here you'll see a lot more applications and later products running on the system, And you also see improvements like in performance, scalability, number of users, and hardware platforms. So if you're an Ultrix user today, if you have Ultrix users, Ultrix will continue to be supported. However, most of the future development in terms of the kernel will be done on DEC OSF 1. If you want your Ultrix users to migrate over, if they develop their own applications, you really want to start evaluating version 1. If they're more end users and they buy applications off the shelf, you want them to start evaluating DEC OSF 1 version 2 around the end of the calendar year, whenever they're ready to migrate and whenever the applications and products that they need are available. To help users migrate over from Ultrix, we have this migration guide, and it goes over a number of things. The differences between OSF 1 and Ultrix, the differences in network and system management, and also how to port over both shell scripts and C programs. So far, the work we've been doing with ISVs has been very positive. The major ISVs are enthusiastic in starting their OSF 1 port today. Next to us at the booth at DEC OSF 1, we have Oracle running on DEC OSF 1.
Hi, we have our Oracle case products running on OSF 1. We've ported them over, and the port was relatively very easy. Taking them from Ultrix to OSF 1 is not a problem at all. These are our case products here, and they are products that help developers create applications. They're very easy to use, and when a developer uses them, the application comes out a lot smoother than it does when it saves you a lot of time instead of starting from scratch.
Xtensory Inc.'s virtual reality demonstration illustrates the basics of virtual reality. The participant is immersed in a virtual world which consists of graphical objects and maneuvers through them, changes viewpoints, and grabs and repositions the objects. Objects can be taken from one virtual world to another, and if dropped, obey the laws of gravity of that particular world. Tactile feedback provides the user with a sense of touch so that objects can be felt at the fingertip.
I'm switching worlds. New worlds.
Full virtual reality systems can be assembled for a wide variety of applications using the input and output devices shown, as well as a host of others. Applications include visualization, design, simulation, training, what-ifs, and modeling in such diverse industries as medicine, engineering, finance, banking, communications, chemicals, and pharmaceuticals. The information being worked with can be concrete or abstract, and multiple workstations can be networked for sharing virtual worlds. The software runs on DECstations, and progress is being made on alpha and VMS platforms.
Parametric Technology Corporation will be demonstrating the Pro Engineer family of products at DECworld. We're really excited about working with digital at DECworld because we're going to be on display in a number of places. The first location is the Power Frame area where we're showing Pro Engineer integrated with Power Frame. Power Frame is a digital product that allows you to encapsulate applications like Pro Engineer and work multi-applications on the same system with a consistent user interface. In addition to Power Frame, Power Track from TI, a joint product with digital, will be shown with Pro Engineer also at DECworld. There's a third area where we're showing in the CSO demo court, demonstrating the full features of Pro Engineer and all its associated modules for mechanical design. Fourth area is the Alpha area, where we're going to have two sites showing Pro Engineer demonstrated on the Alpha workstation. We'll also be showing in the workshop, which is every afternoon at 4 o'clock, where there is multi-application demonstrations, and Pro Engineer will be one of those. In addition to that, we're going to be in the Ultrix Systems and Server area. We'll be demonstrating on a DECstation 4000 Model 60, and we'll be demonstrating on a DECstation with OSF. In fact, we will be the only premier major vendor in mechanical design showing on OSF at the show. In the USS area, we're going to be showing on 2 different workstations. First, we'll show on a backstation Model 60 with the new SPXG and SPX-GT graphics boards. Here you'll be able to see the power of the DEC SPX graphics working with 3D models and assemblies. This is especially useful for engineers who need complex designs and assemblies that can take advantage of the real-time shading and rotations of the SPX graphics. The second area in USS will be a DECstation 5000, and we'll show Pro Engineer family working on OSF operating system. So that's pretty exciting for us because this is our first release on OSF. For mechanical engineers, Pro Engineer allows you to design models and assemblies parametrically and using features instead of designing with geometry. What does that mean for the end user? It means that if you make a change, all those changes are automatically updated throughout the entire model. If you make a change to the part, the drawing automatically updates. The manufacturing automatically updates. The bill of materials can update. If you make a change to the drawing, it's bidirectional associativity. So change a dimension and the part updates. There's no other system in the world that has bidirectional associativity. Pro Engineer is sold to a variety of mechanical design applications. One of our biggest industry areas is electronics design. Customers like Digital, for example, one of our major customers. Texas Instruments is another, for example. We sell into automotive, into aerospace, consumer products, medical products industry. People that you'll be talking to are engineering managers and vice presidents of engineering who really understand the power of the bidirectional associativity and the productivity that their mechanical design engineers can gain with the Pro Engineer family. Pro Engineer is on release 9 today, and as we've gone from 1988 with sequential releases, we've added a number of modules to the whole family. There are now 23 distinct modules in the Pro Engineer family, anything from cabling in 3 dimensions to sheet metal applications to finite element mesh for analysis, interface to CATIA, for example. So there's a full suite of functionality that comes with Pro Engineer. With Pro Engineer and the power of the DECstations, the amount of productivity that can be gained is incredible. Because you can make changes on the fly and everything in your database updates, there's no other system that comes close to doing what PTC and DEC can do in mechanical design.
The company's name is PDA Engineering, and we'll be showing PATRAN 3, or really the whole suite of PATRAN products at DECworld 92. The products that we're showing are, again, PATRAN 3 and the whole suite of mechanical computer-aided engineering tools delivered by PDA. These tools are designed to help our users, or a variety of manufacturing, automotive, and aerospace companies, to do analysis and simulation of product performance. What we'll be demoing is the engineering functionality, integration with design tools, as well as a whole new suite of products that we're developing and delivering this year. These tools have a new user interface, a new database management tools, and very tight integration with both design solutions from other partners such as Pro Engineer and Unigraphics, as well as the full suite of analysis capabilities delivered both by PDA Engineering and a variety of commercial analysis companies, ANSYS, Nastran, and Abacus. PATRAN products appeal to the whole gambit of engineers doing analysis. So it would be aerospace companies such as Hughes and McDonnell Douglas, automotive companies, the big 3, GM, Ford, Chrysler, and also consumer products. So we have Pitney Bowes, Polaroid, Kodak. We have some solutions even on site at Digital, both in Marlboro and out at the Storage Systems Group. The types of people you should be looking for to bring to PDA demos are engineers and engineering managers, anyone responsible for the concurrent engineering process or the design to manufacturing process. Both users will be excited by the technology we're providing, and engineering managers and high-level managers in those companies will be interested in the philosophy that we bring for concurrent engineering and the solutions we'll be showing at DECworld 92. The important messages that we want to make sure that all customers walk away from DECworld with are that PATRAN 3 is not just a facelift to the tools provided by PDA Engineering, but it's a whole new generation of analysis capabilities. These tools, more than any other tool in the marketplace, integrate both design and analysis solution, and they allow your customers or your end users to leverage their existing investments in both design solutions and analysis solutions and be able to optimize all the solutions and not have to start over from a ground-up solution. So it's the #1 analysis integrator in the industry today.
Hi, this is Jack Toto. I'm the marketing manager for the multimedia products and workstation space that we have available currently. What I'd like to do here from the DECworld floor is talk to you about a product by the name of DECspin, which allows you to video conference between workstation platforms over local area networks. First, let's talk about the hardware required for a DECspin video conference. DECspin is available for any of the workstations that we currently have that are turbo channel based. That is anything from the low-end Model 25 and 33 workstations, which do have audio capabilities built in, all the way up to the high-end DECstation 5000 Model 240, which we have here at the show. Additionally to the workstation, you need to add 3 hardware cards. Those hardware cards are the TX frame buffer, the DEC video PIP card, which daughters on top of that, the DEC audio voice capture and playback box, and interface card. The interface card comes with this distribution box, which allows you to bring in, cable in your different audio channels, cable out to various speakers and microphones, and so on. After you've selected the workstation for customers, installed or had ordered the hardware required to do the video conferencing, you need to order the DECspin software. The total add-on cost for hardware and software for the workstations other than the Model 25 and 33 is approximately $10,500. The low-end workstations, the Model 25 and 33, have built-in audio capabilities which are compatible with the video conferencing software. You therefore do not need to order any of the DEC audio hardware or the interface box, and you will be able to reduce the price of that by $1,995, basically $2,000. So what I'd like to talk about now is the DECspin software. First, I will run a demo of DECspin, and I will conference with another workstation here on the DECworld floor. After I've gone through the DECspin software, we will then go through a scenario of something called Meetings at Work using a DECpresent prototype package that allows me to share documents across the network onto various workstation platforms. So in essence, what I get is a video conferencing session that allows me to have voice and video communications with the people I need to talk to, as well as the ability to share documents. Additional to the cost of the hardware for a workstation, any type of camera. We're using here a basic VHS camera that was bought at a video store locally here. Some sort of headphone interface, or it could be a clip-on microphone, such as I'm wearing here for a taping of this video. Could even use the microphones that are built into the cameras. So the expense of adding on a camera or some sorts of headsets or microphones really varies with the customer's desire to have certain quality of audio and video into the workstation. At the present time, we do not package any of the camera, any of the kinds of camera mount arms or tripods or headsets or microphones with the DECspin product. To start up a DECspin conference, from the session manager, DECspin can be installed. If under Applications I select and scan down, I will click on the DECspin. I will open up my initial DECspin window. I will always, during a DECspin conference, have that window available to me on my work screen. So I know what sort of video that I am transmitting to the people that are involved in the conference. Initially, when I get into the conference, I have up here in the upper left-hand corner a DECspin message which says somebody has left messages for me. DECspin provides a way of other DECspin members of leaving you what equates to being video mail. At your choice, you can go in and read or choose not to read. And we'll take a look at that DECspin message that was left for us a little bit later on. Once I get into DECspin, there's a series of buttons across the top of the DECspin window here, which we refer to as talking buttons. These buttons have audio capabilities built in. For instance, if I highlight this international symbol for networks and I hit the help key on the keyboard, I will get an audio message which is telling me that this is the call list panel and that I would activate this particular button if I wanted to set up my call list to join a conference or to start a conference. Likewise, all of the other buttons that are across here give me the same kind of audio information. And they include a control panel, next being the status panel, and finally being the information panel. The information panel includes all of the information, documentation, help files, and so on that I would require to run a DECspin conference. I have a choice of starting up either textual book reader information. So for instance, I'm playing back a message which was left for us. I have the standard book reader interface to the textual help for how to play back a message that's been left for me. At the same time, on the right-hand side of my information panel, I have this diamond that I can click on, which will play for me a compressed video image with associated sound as to how I go about activating the control panel for reading back those messages. So all of the help that's required for operating a DECspin conference, adding members, deleting members, making connections, finding things in the DECspin conference are available in sound and picture information. Those sound and picture information files were created for DECspin with the use of the SMP widget that's available in the XMedia Toolkit. In fact, DECspin itself was built on the XMedia Toolkit using the DEC Media hardware. Getting into the conference, I have here my control panel. My control panel allows me to do a number of things. I can select the addresses of all of the people that I need to conference with at a particular time. That includes selecting audio capabilities or video capabilities or both. Should I decide to conference with a user that has a Model 25 or Model 33 DECstation 5000 that has built-in audio capabilities and they've decided not to install video cards, I can still conference with those people as long as they're running the DECspin software, but there would be an audio conference only. However, using a shared document, as you'll see later on, using the video capabilities of DECspin, we can have a very effective meeting. Once I've selected the media that I want to use, then on the left-hand side here, I click on the ring button for the people that I want to ring up. They get a ring widget that shows up on their screen. They can choose to answer or decline to answer at that particular point in time. If they so choose to answer, we get into a conference. If they choose to decline, I get an opportunity to leave a DECspin message as was left for me earlier. Here at the bottom of my DECspin window, for my control list, I have the ability to capture video that's playing during the conference and to give it a file name, select whether I want to record just the audio or the video or both, and hit the record button, and I write to disk a compressed video file with associated audio. Likewise, if I have that file on disk and wish to play that for conference members that I happen to be talking to, I give it the file name here, I click on this button, and I now play that file into the DECspin window, and everyone that's associated with the conference sees that particular video message. Next, I have my control panel. My control panel allows me to do a number of things. First, it allows me to switch between color and black and white. So clicking down here in the lower right-hand corner, I now have a color video. If I so choose to conference with somebody in color, or if they request to see something in color, we can send them color video. Likewise, I can turn on compression. Software compression here gives me the capability to compress video at about 150 to 1. Allows me to get much better frame rates as I go out on the network. For the user, as he sits here, he will see his video compressed down into a quarter size of his current screen. That's to let the user know that he's conferencing with somebody in compressed mode. Likewise, I have the ability to control my frame rates. So should I be trying to conference with somebody over Ethernet or outside on T3 lines or T1 lines, I know I can't get 30 frames per second. I can turn the processor down and tell the processor to try and do something more like 6 frames a second, therefore allowing more of the CPU bandwidth to be left behind for other applications which may be going on at the same time. In most cases, however, with conferencing over fiber or conferencing over copper using FDDI or conferencing over Ethernet, you would leave that setting up at 30 frames a second. I have also the ability below that to control my color, my brightness, contrast, the volume of my headset, the volume gain from my microphone. Finally, I have a status panel here that when I'm connected to somebody, it will tell me the size of my window that I'm transmitting onto the network. It will tell me the number of frames I'm transmitting. It'll tell me the percentage of the network bandwidth that I'm using at that particular point in time. Tell me the number of connections I have in this particular conference, how many of them have audio, how many of them have video. Very important to note here that as far as bandwidth requirements go, it is tunable by the user in that I have a selected frame size. I can grab this window. This window is scalable. So now I've reduced my image size to 192 by 106. If I take those dimensions, multiply them together by the 8 planes of grayscale that we're transmitting, multiply that by the number of frame rates that I would see when I'm involved in a conference, that will tell me what my bandwidth requirements are for that particular conference at that particular time. Likewise, on the audio side, questions come up around what is the minimum bandwidth for audio. For a two-way conversation, I need 128 kilobits per second minimum bandwidth for a continuous two-way conversation. So let's back up here to my call list, and let's call someone out on the DECworld floor. We'll try the EPUBs group. Now they're receiving a ring widget on their screen. They have the opportunity to either answer or not answer. If they're busy, they have the opportunity to turn that call away. Hello, Ann.
Hi, Jack. Thanks for getting back to me today.
That's okay. All right. I've now connected with Ann Murray in the EPUBs booth on the other side of the floor here. Ann has complete control of the information that she's sending me in her window. She can likewise send me compressed video, color video. She can change the size of her window, so on and so forth. I could then begin to call up 2 or 3 of the other members that are on the list here. When I have them all on my screen in small windows, again, small windows are very useful because I'm now going to start to work on this document, which Ann will work you through. But these small windows allow me to get 4 or 5 people on my workstation screen, open up the document, work through the document, and conference with everyone. And how's about we do some proof of the pudding here and you send me something in color?
Okay, color video?
Certainly.
How's that?
Okay, that's fine, thanks. You're looking lovely today. All right, now that the conference is going, at any point in time, again, going back to the status panel, I have the ability to monitor what's going on the network. So I can determine what my frame rates are, what percentage of the network I'm using, what size windows I'm sending, and so on and so forth. And if the frame rates don't look like there's anything there that's acceptable, I can bring up my control panel and I can begin to work with a couple of the parameters that I have. The size of the window, I can begin to shrink it. I can go from color, if I'm in color, to black and white, and I can turn compression on, which allows me to get faster and faster frame rates as we go through the session. Okay, at this point in time, I will turn this demo over to Ann, and Ann will work us through the Meetings at Work DECpresent package. When we're done with Ann's piece of this demo, then we're going to come back in and I'm going to show you some more of the technical details behind some of the panels that we have here available to you as a user interface to the DECspin conferencing software. Ann, it's all yours.
Thanks, Jack. Now that we've talked about how two-way video conferencing can be enabled by DECspin, what I'd like to do now is talk about another capability that will enable us to get some work done in real time so that we can share text and graphics. I can show you things that you can review. We can discuss them and also make changes to them. This capability that I'd like to show right now is called DECpresent, and DECpresent is a very rich presentation tool that now has a module that allows conferencing between many locations regardless of where they are. You can see in this slide that we have both text and graphics with various fonts and also color. Here's a slide that illustrates locations of meetings and meeting configurations that people need to get work done in distributed formats. Now here's an advertising promotional slide that can be edited, and what I'd like to do now is to show that Jack can actually take control of the slide and make some changes to it while we watch him do that. So what I'm going to do is go up to the menu bar at the top of the DECpresent screen here and pull down to pass the chalk. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Jack, who's the person I'd like to pass the chalk to.
Okay, I've got a message that says the message has been passed to me. So now I've got control of the document, is that correct?
Yes, you do. Jack, why don't you go back a slide and then come forward?
Okay, so I'm able to back up and bring the slides forward. Okay.
And what I'd like you to do now is just get rid of that extra text in there that says field sales proposal. Why don't you just take that out so it's not quite so cluttered?
Okay.
That's great.
How's that?
That's great, Jack.
Okay.
Now, what I'd like you to do is advance the slides.
All right.
And you see
now
here...
I've got full document capabilities that I would normally have as a DECpresent user.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. If you wanted to type something in, you wanted to add something about how it works in the title, you could do that. One of the things that I think is significant about this slide that Jack is showing us is that we can actually create action items, make notes to ourselves. Jack, maybe you'd like to just type in at that last bullet, final legal review before product launch.
Of course, I could use the spell checker as well, correct?
Absolutely.
Important.
Jack, what I'd like you to do now is pass me back the chalk.
Sure. Okay, I've selected your location, and I've now passed the chalk back off to you.
Great, and I've clicked OK. What I like to do now is just show a capability with DECpresent, which I think is very rich. We're able to show engineering specs as well as designs and calculations, which I think really diversify the types of graphics and text that can be used in DECpresent. Some of these graphics were created on other platforms and were brought into DECpresent as an example of how we can, either through scanning or through document transfer, bring sources of information from a variety of databases. And what I'd like to do now, Jack, is show another graphic that's a very rich graphic, and the reason that you saw it took just a few seconds for the heart to appear on the screen is that this graphic of a heart is actually live linked back to another document in another database. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get rid of that heart, and I'm going to replace it with another graphic that is actually in a separate document than the heart document. So you see that this is another live link to a document in another database. So we can really change graphics, we can access data to other databases, and be very flexible in what we want to do. Now, what are the benefits of having this kind of capability with DECpresent in a conferencing module? We can also show charts and graphs. And when we combine this capability in real time with two-way video conferencing, you can see that in a meeting, if Jack and I needed to get work done, we were able to basically span a significant distance. We can also span time zones and get real work done in real time. The capabilities that were enabled is that during this meeting, this session, Jack and I were able to see each other and hear each other in real time. We were able to review and edit text and graphics in real time, assign actions, track actions, and so on. And what these benefits add up to is being able to meet, in some instances, impossible deadlines because we don't have to travel to get our work done. The other thing is that although Jack and I are in very different groups, we're able to work together when we need to on projects, regardless of where our different functional organizations are located. In doing this today, the capabilities were enabled by a DECstation 5000 with DEC Media hardware. DECspin and DECpresent conference software. We're using an FDDI network today to connect to one another and share information. We used effective meeting protocols, and we used a meetings that work solution design. If you have a need to do real work in real time, independent of location, meetings that work with solution components such as DECspin and DECpresent with its conferencing module can create and implement a solution for you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for the demo, Ann. And now I'll take them through some of the technical details of DECspin.
That's great.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, so let's take a look at our DECspin. What we've got on the screen here when DECspin opens up is the user's window. You'll always see your video inside the window so you know what you're sending to the people that you're conferencing with. Should you be sending in color, compressed, and so on and so forth, you'll always know what they're seeing by what you see in your window. At the top of the DECspin window, there's 5 different buttons. Those are international symbols for information, status, color control, and for networks. And finally, the green symbol for ending a conference. Each of those buttons allows me certain capabilities. For instance, if I highlight that button, hit the help key, it tells me this is my call list and directory.
Click on me to add to, modify, or activate your DECspin call connections.
So if I open up my call list, here's a list of all the workstations here on the DECworld floor that I'm allowed to conference with. These are similar workstations that have similar hardware in them. I can select audio and video as a way of conferencing to each of those workstations. I ring on these buttons, I call each one of them up, I select the join button at the top of the window here. I've now joined all of those conferences together. We now all hear and see each other. I can call a maximum number of 6 people together. It makes it a lot easier to manage 6 people than it does 12 people. The next button.
Control. Click on me to adjust your sound and picture transmission.
So this is my control panel. I click on that. I now have my control panel up. My control panel allows me to change my frame rates. Should I be going out on some very slow network, T1, T3 kinds of lines, I know I'm not going to get 30 frames a second. Let's tell the processor to do a little bit less work. Let's try 6 frames a second, which is more reasonable. Opportunity to control all my color, contrast, brightness, microphone gain, headset, volume control, compression, and black and white and color transmission. Normally you would want a color, you would want to transmit in either black and white with or without compression. Using no compression on fiber optic FDDI networks works absolutely fine. With compression on, works even better. Finally,
Status. Click on me to see your transmission's frames per second and megabits per second rates over the network.
so here's my status panel. This will tell me what size image I'm transmitting, how many frames per second I'm transmitting it at, and how much of the network I'm using, how many people I'm connected to, and how many of those people actually have audio and video capabilities on their side. There's one other panel, the information panel, which is not generally used during a conference, but before you start a conference where you may be looking to get some information, particularly on how to start a conference. You can get standard book reader information by selecting the diamonds on the left-hand side of the various items, or by clicking the diamond on the right-hand side. I now bring up compressed video capabilities with synchronized audio that tells me how to add a member to my call list.
This pops up your
All of the
address
help
directory.
information that's required
Click on the
for
selection
DECspin
slot.
comes available
Here
with
you
it
can
when
create
you
or
buy and
modify
install the
an entry
software.
and add it to your address directory.
And the actual title of today's presentation is the Microsoft Digital Strategic Relationship. First, you'll be hearing from Dwayne Walker. Dwayne has been an international consultant and author of 2 very popular seminars, Multi-Vendor Networking, PCs, Minis, and Mainframes, and Hands-on PC Networking, and has co-authored the book Micro to Mainframe by Addison Wesley. He's a longtime product manager, originally with Ashton Tate, now with Microsoft, and is currently the Director of Windows NT and Networking Products for Microsoft. He'll be joined by David Stone, who is Digital's Vice President of Software Engineering.
David has been with Digital for 22 years and has held a succession of senior management positions, spending, I believe, 16 years in Europe, so if any of you would like to ask questions in French or German, David will be happy to handle it. David holds, to show you what a big, happy family we all are here, David holds a patent with 3 other people, one of whom is David Cutler, who just happens to be the person developing NT for Microsoft these days. So I think anything you've ever wanted to know about NT, you'll be able to cover. In fact, Carl Stork of Microsoft, who also product manages NT, is here as well. So without further ado, Dwayne Walker.
What I thought I would do is give you an introduction here to the Digital Microsoft relationship. And I guess I wanted to start off by pointing out that different from some of the other interesting relationships that have been announced, especially in the last few years, the Digital Microsoft relationship is not a new relationship. It's a long-standing relationship that goes back to the early 80s. We've had a number of joint projects around various technologies in the areas of operating systems, networking, enhancements to our technologies to exploit digital hardware that many of you have been using for many years. So from a perspective of relationships, this is really an extension or expansion of a long-standing relationship between two organizations that many of you as customers have made a lot of investments in over the years. When Bill Gates and Ken Olsen and David Stone and all the people who were behind putting together this expansion of our relationship, we really looked at a couple of different aspects of our companies and how we were going to be looking to go forward. There was a lot of synergy between vision, the vision at Microsoft around information at your fingertips, and the vision at Digital in terms of advanced operating systems, advanced hardware, systems integration services, and so forth and so on. There was a lot of synergy between the visions of the two organizations. In addition, we're two organizations that are led a lot by technology from the standpoint that our vision is not only coupled from our customers' requirements and directions, but also helping to advance technologies in very rapid fashion. When we look at moving forward, sort of this creation of the next set of technologies and for the marketplace, we really see the combination of Alpha clearly being, for us, an exciting piece of technology from a processor point of view, combined with Windows NT, our next generation operating system. We think bringing it together, not only the organizations, our visions, but also the technologies of Windows NT and the Alpha processor will yield a lot of benefits for you as customers, as well as for the broad marketplace. To give you some idea of the focus, if you will, around this combination, Windows is certainly an operating system that has been very popular up to now and continues to sell very well with over 10 million copies in the marketplace today. By combining advanced processors such as Alpha with Windows NT, the idea is to bring together the combination of advanced productivity that's found in things like Windows, application software. By running Windows NT, the applications that you know today at the desktop will immediately be available for the Alpha platform, as well as advanced scalability, meaning that we're able to now offer a platform that scales from notebook computers, if you will, all the way through very high-end mainframe systems based on the Alpha processor. There are a lot of benefits, if you will, to the combination of our visions, technologies, and market presence. It really gets into this whole idea of the redefinition or redeploying of resources in the marketplace. And there's a lot of terminology out there these days about re-engineering and downsizing and on and on and on. Well, the net of it is we believe that as customers, you're continuing to look for ways of maximizing your investments, looking for greater return, more efficiency, more productivity, whether it's for the end user, the programmer, for the manager of system services, or your network administrators, and so forth. And we believe by pulling together these technologies, it really yields a number of advantages, including probably one of the ones that's top in priority for us as an organization, between Digital and Microsoft, is really the protection and extension of your investments. We know that most organizations do not go along the path of rip out and replace. You tend to want to extend your investments and leverage the technologies, whether it's in the networking area, the desktop services that you're using, or the back-end services that you find on various mini computers or mainframes in your environment. So the idea for us is to be able to provide tremendous access to information throughout the enterprise, whether it's at the work group level, department, or enterprise-wide, and open doors for new applications. There's another whole new generation of applications that are clearly coming to the forefront. A lot of people like to talk about object-oriented programming and object-oriented languages and all those kinds of technologies. The net of it is we hope to be able to empower the end user, if you will, to gain greater productivity, more efficiency, and hopefully a better ROI for your various businesses that you're deploying. From a scalability point of view, this is really, or investment protection point of view, we really look at this whole idea of investment, enhancement, or extension. And the idea here is that, obviously, as organizations, you're making a tremendous investment in desktop devices today, whether they're called notebooks, PCs, workstations, or whatever your favorite term, or all three may be. In addition to that, there's obviously going to continue to be a substantial investment in large-scale mini-computers, multi-processing servers, high-end mainframes, and so forth. By combining the enterprise strategies of Microsoft's Windows Open Services architecture, or WOSA, combined with Digital's NAS architecture, we really think that we're going to be able to provide you as customers with a rich selection of system services, operating systems, applications, as well as the appropriate system services and support services behind these technologies. So the idea is really an alignment and integration, if you will, of WOSA and NAS to provide the best of desktop computing as well as the best of enterprise computing, along with all the services and technologies in between. So if we had to sort of, if you will, look at the combination of this from a development point of view, I think there's a couple of things I want to make sure that I leave you with. One is, anytime there's a new introduction of an operating system or a processor, in this case a combination of the two, one of the things that customers like yourselves want to know is, well, will there be applications available for it? What will the development environment be? Will there be the tools there that I need to develop next generation business applications or productivity tools for end users? Well, you'll find with the combination of both Alpha and Windows NT, the risk in that area is very low. Because Windows NT allows you to run DOS applications, Windows 16-bit applications, or probably better known today as just existing Windows 3.0 and 3.1 applications. We'll also run next generation 32-bit applications, OS2 character mode applications initially, later on PM, as well as support for POSIX applications and so forth. So the idea is that day one on the Alpha processor, when we deliver Windows NT running with Digital, there will be a very rich selection of development tools, end-user tools, communication packages, and the appropriate integration of services from Digital and Microsoft, and a rich selection of third-party applications from around the industry. So I think for the first time you will see here a deployment of next-generation operating systems and hardware simultaneously with rich selection of applications and support services from a combination of Microsoft, Digital, and a wide selection of third parties throughout the industry. As far as our actual announcement, and Dave's going to go into a lot more detail about this, but just to give you the top level, the expansion of the relationship was really centered around, or anchored around a couple of things this month. The idea was to formally announce, there's been a lot of rumors on various publications about deployment of Windows NT on the Alpha processor. So yes, we formally announced that. We are moving forward to deliver Alpha support as a standard component of Windows NT. The developer kit that we'll release here in July will initially contain support for all of all the main processors. We'll start off by supporting Intel and MIPS. When we ship Windows NT, it is our goal to ship Alpha support very, very shortly thereafter to release for Intel and MIPS. We expect to be within a quarter, within 90 days, 6 months at the latest. Our goal is right now 90 days maximum for the delivery on Intel and MIPS. We will deliver support for the Alpha processor. So that implies support meaning applications to development tools and so forth. In addition, we've announced that we are basically aligning the development strategies around NAS and our Windows Open Services architecture. And I think David has a number of slides on that. And equally as important to Microsoft and I think to you as customers is the worldwide service and support that Digital Equipment Corporation is really known for to do a very quality job with. And we're really excited about not only extending the technology of Windows computing across a next generation of processors, but the ability to have high quality worldwide service and support from the standpoint of consulting services, systems integration, training, and so forth is very, very key in making it successful for you as customers and ultimately for us as vendors. Now, I decided that I would do the talk on Alpha here. How's that? Just to throw a twist here. I'll let David give you details about what Windows is, and the fact of the matter is we'll just sort of switch roles here and see how it goes. Alpha is interesting. The Alpha technology for us is really exciting because it's really a piece of technology that really, for us, came about almost 2 years earlier than we thought the technology of this sort would enter the marketplace. And so the excitement for Microsoft, and I think for you as customers, is this is really state-of-the-art technology that's really being delivered into the marketplace well in advance of a lot of anticipation of so-called experts in the marketplace. So with an open architecture of Alpha, coupled with high performance 64-bit processing, advanced cache management, and so forth, it really is a state-of-the-art processors, coupled with the support for leading operating systems in OSF, VMS, and the Windows NT environment. And I think something that I think for us is really exciting to see digital from the standpoint, from a mindset point of view, is really to open up Alpha and with a strategy of licensing the technology to a variety of vendors in the marketplace to ensure wide volume, if you will, broad volume in the marketplace, which really has a lot of positive benefits. The strategy of an open architecture with Alpha, open licensing strategy, support for a variety of boards and systems, means that the volume will be there, which means the application will be there. Third parties who develop business applications, development tools, and user tools will very aggressively move toward this platform because of the combination of the openness of the hardware and the support for the Windows operating system coupled with support for existing operating systems in the areas of OS7 and VMS. So we think Alpha, is really going to change the state of the computer business quite dramatically over the next couple of years. We're excited to be a part of that. And I'd like to bring up David to really give you a lot more detail, not only about Alpha, I really didn't give it enough justice here, but not only about Alpha, but really the fit between Alpha, Windows, and our strategies between the two organizations. Thank you.
Did somebody in the back say they couldn't hear properly? It's okay? No. Not good enough yet? No. Move it up to time? Hold it in my hands? Yeah. Okay. So let me tell you some of the details. There are 3 parts to this announcement, which you heard. Number 1 is all about operating system and architectural chip. Number 2 is alignment of software architectures. Number 3 is service agreement. So I will run you through those 3 in a little more detail. First, a word about Windows NT. Windows NT is a serious operating system designer's attempt to move PC computing into the late 60s. And I say that not because NT isn't a modern operating system, but because what you're used to running on is early 60s technology. As an operating systems designer by trade, I can think of nothing worse than to talk about MS-DOS. How many of you know about the difference between extended memory and real memory and all those other kinds of memories? Have you read the 40-page book on how to optimize your memory usage? Do you care? Well, the purpose of a modern operating system is to insulate you from all that baloney and to make it possible for you to get on with doing what you want to do. And very seldom these days is what you want to do associated with something like 640K of memory. So, what you've got here is, from the bottom up, modern operating system principles, modular, designed to be portable, has hooks for system management, has hooks for security, does symmetric multiprocessing, and all that good stuff. And I can say this with some assurance, as I say, that's my trade, and I know Dave Cutler real well. I hired him into digital, and he did, after all, write DMS. So you've got that. Now, you notice it says on the screen there's 16 and 32-bit applications. Well, it's such a leap from 640,000 bytes to 4 billion bytes that when they started thinking about this, they couldn't imagine that they might want to get to 16 quintillion bytes, which is what 64 bits gets to. So 32 bits is going to be a big leap forward here for people. It'll probably take them 3 or 4 weeks to use it all up. Now, when you get to the combination of NT and alpha, a couple of interesting things stand out. Number one is the fact that both alpha and NT were designed to be portable. NT was designed to run on multiple chip architectures. And so, in fact, it runs on, or will run on, Intel and MIPS and alpha. Likewise, alpha, the chip, is designed to be portable, and there is a PAL layer of code on the top of the chip which allows it to optimize itself for different operating systems. So on first release, you will find VMS and OSF1 and NT. So there's a nice complementarity to that. What's going to happen when we move the NT operating system to alpha is obviously we have to make it possible for people to use it. So digital will supply the alpha back end of the compiler. What that allows a developer to do is to make a single source code for their application, run it through the front end of the Microsoft compilers, and spit out optimized code for the 3 architectures, Intel, MIPS, and alpha. So you have single source code and 3 optimized binaries. And we will collectively make these things available to people in a way that's simple, typically in the same distribution format. So that makes life easy for people to use it. We're doing this engineering in a location in our side, digital side, in Bellevue, Washington. And I was asked once at the press conference why we didn't have our development effort located physically in Redmond on the Microsoft campus. It's actually about 1.5 miles away. And I pointed out to them that at the rate that Microsoft was expanding, it would be on campus shortly. So we're working closely together with them. And the software developers kits and tools that Dwayne talked about will be provided from Microsoft and from digital to make sure that people are capable of taking advantage of this new platform. Now, in particular, there are a couple of other things that we're going to do that are relevant to the port. First of all, we will produce a desktop ACMS, which is Transaction Processing Client, product to put out on this NT on alpha. By the way, we expect NT on alpha to come out with the first volume ships of alpha, which are kind of the end of the year, December, January timeframe. And we'll put the desktop client out on that. Then we will also supply to Microsoft an Xserver for the NT environment, which allows you to do X Windows or Xserver type things that you'd like to do there, and we will supply that to them and they will put it in their product. And then we will extend our PathWorks PC integration product to support NT both as a server and as a client. So you can see, and I think Dwayne made this point well, what we're doing here is a very pragmatic thing. Both sides of this relationship can see very clear short-term business values because we can look at our customer base and ask them, what do you want? And they typically want the kinds of things that we're talking about. So the first stage is move the NT operating system environment complete with every single existing Windows application. Put them on top of alpha. Stage 1. Now, the next question you have is, what are you going to do about using this power in some sensible way? Now, the first thing, it's clear to us, where are we going to roll this thing out? We're going to roll this thing out from a digital perspective, primarily in the beginning as a LAN operating system server for large numbers of Windows-based PCs. Just kind of the obvious thing to do. You can serve more of them, cheaper per seat, and you have more functionality, and the architecture is the same from a Windows perspective. So that's just logical. That's where we expect to deploy it in volume first. However, the history of this industry is replete with examples of creativity springing up to take advantage of technology that the technologists didn't know how to use. I mean, that's just kind of the way it works, right? So we believe that in addition to the obvious classes of applications where you'd like to have this huge address space and this fast processing power, there'll be some new ones. The obvious ones are weather simulation, financial modeling of very large systems, all the standard workstation modeling type things where the mathematics of the current understanding of the algorithm not only allow you to take advantage of this sort of thing. But we really expect a whole new class of applications to spring up. I was trying to figure out how I could tell you how big 64-bit address space was in sort of real life terms. It's quite hard because it's such a large number, it is very counterintuitive. So I started off by thinking how many little thingies I could stack up between here and the moon, and that's not far enough. So I went to the sun, and the sun, you may remember from your geography class, is about 93 million miles away on the average. 93 million miles, right? So if you went, and if you had any hair, most of you have hair, if you had hair, just take a hair off your head and look at it. That's about 100 microns, which is 10 to the minus fourth of a meter. Okay, if you took things as thick as your hair, and you stacked them up tightly with no spaces in between, and you ran them out to the sun, you'd have to do that about 17,000 times. This is a big number. So somebody will figure out what to do with that. And that's why we love this industry. A friend of mine at Harvard Business School was telling me that he thought I was crazy to be in the computer business. He said, I like a nice, stable, backwater kind of industry. He actually was talking about the paper industry at the time, no insult intended. And he said, I like the paper industry. The people I compete with are so normal. By which he meant not as smart as him. And he said, the trouble with your industry is there's so many neurons firing all the time. Too much competition. Anyhow, the result of that is that you get a lot of neat applications. So let's talk about the next piece, which is, what is this architectural alignment of NAS and WOZAC? Network Application Support Architecture, Windows Open Services Architecture. Well, an architecture is simply a set of rules that allow people to connect things together in a pleasing fashion. Think of an architect of a house. What does he do? He makes a set of rules so that the plumbing and the electricity and the wood and the brick and all the other subsystems of your house can happily coexist without running into each other. And if you have an architectural plan of your house, when you go to modify it, you can look there and say, oh, there's a beam here. If I cut this beam, the roof will fall in. I'll cut over here instead, where there's no beam. So that's what an architecture is for. So what we're going to do here is agree that the current standards efforts, the OSF and XOpen class of efforts to create interfaces are good. But they're not sufficient. So you have all kinds of database access things, SQL 1, 2, and 3 in succeeding years. SQL Access Group in particular, we've agreed we will support, and SQL connectivities and other such things. It's a whole bunch of these which allow the client, the person, to access services from the wide area network. Microsoft has done a wonderful job of creating a personal productivity environment on a PC inside a Windows environment. Great stuff. We have done a wonderful job of creating an enterprise-wide system of access to information, enterprise-level information, and doing the things like X400 mail service and whatever, which allow these individuals to participate in the corporate endeavor, or for that matter, in any ad hoc groups they like to be in to make things happen. So what we have to do is make that connection rich enough in an architectural sense that whatever wants to be done and can be done inside the PC environment without change to the application or to the user interface can get access to the same class of service or activity out on the network. It's really obvious, and that's exactly what customers would like us to be able to do. And that's what we're doing. So we'll provide what they call in Microsoft land a service provider interface, SPI, application programming interface, and those are the two ends of this spectrum of architecture seen from the client side. You come in and then out. From the other side, all 2,700 of the NAS class of applications can now reach down to the client without having to change themselves. So that's the purpose of the architectural alignment. We also have, in addition to the plan, the concept, we have some specifics which we are dealing with in the short term. Because if you don't have specifics, you don't make money. And it's important to recognize that the goal of this exercise is to generate delight in the customer's eyes, productivity for the customer's people, and profit in both of our pockets. That is the nature of a commercial enterprise. And as long as all three of us get what we're looking for here, namely delight and profit, then this will continue to be a very sensible thing to do. We believe it's really clear that this is the case. So specifics of the architectural alignment. We've agreed that we will produce an SQL Server gateway from the Microsoft client environment out to RDB, our premier relational database, on VMS, which is where it runs today. We did a program announcement that RDB will also be available in the future on OSF 1, but basically it's on VMS for short term. We will both support the SQL access group set of interfaces for how you access databases. We will support the Mail API, which Microsoft is in the process of creating. About 12 to 18 months from now, we expect to roll out a full-fledged MAPI interface with supporting clients and servers. And we will ensure from the digital side that the necessary enterprise-wide hooks are available in that interface so that any mail-enabled application will be able to take advantage of the services that will be available on the network. So that's a joint engineering activity, slightly further out. We have agreed that we will use the remote procedure call, which is a part of the DCE suite from OSF, as a way of doing distributed applications across boxes. Makes good sense. We have agreed to support in common a transport-independent API, which is being called by Microsoft WinSockets. If you're a Unix type, you will recognize the word sockets, and that's what it is. If you're not, it's simply a way of not bothering to specify whether you're using the Unix style of communication, TCP/IP, or DECnet, or whatever. And then finally, we will supply compound document architecture support from Microsoft Word and Excel for Windows. So those are the specifics. Now, in the future, we anticipate doing other things as well. And the areas that you would expect us to work in are system management, object orientation, for example, OLE and ACA, interconnections. You'd expect security and those classes of things. And indeed, we will work on those, and when they're appropriately firm, we will make further agreements as long as they, A, delight the customers, and B, make good business sense for both sides. It should be pointed out that none of these arrangements between the two companies are in any way exclusive. It's kind of irrelevant that they're not exclusive, since there's nowhere else that Microsoft could go to get the kind of scope that we've got, except for one other company. And there's nowhere else that we could go to get the kind of scope on personal productivity and acceptance in the marketplace on the desk that Microsoft has. So it's kind of a really obvious business arrangement from my perspective. So the easy way to summarize all that is we will supply, between the two companies, the best access to enterprise-wide resources and information from a pleasing human productivity environment on the desk. There is indeed another aspect to this relationship, and it's very important, and that is services. Digital has been known for a long time as a very significant supplier of worldwide services. We have over 40,000 service people worldwide. We deliver service in 98 countries around the world. We have 145 educational installations doing business in 20 languages. That is a base of competence which people would like to use, especially large customers who do worldwide things. This base is available for all Windows products, all Microsoft products for that matter, whether sold by digital or not. Consulting, project work, educational activities, and in addition, 7x24 remedial support. And we think this is again a case where it's obvious something that people would like to have from the user of Microsoft products perspective, but also something that digital would like to deliver. So both sides gain. We license their intellectual property. We do the delivery. So if we put these things together, what do you find? You find that there's a shared benefit between the two companies and the customers. All of the services activities that we do can be delivered with Microsoft products. These strengths, we think, are very significant and should lead to our goal, once again, delight for the customers and profit for us. The final tagline that I have for this is the following. Bill Gates is fond of talking about information at your fingertips. That's kind of his tagline, focusing on the personal productivity aspect of computing. My tagline is typically the information utility, making sure that all the infrastructural baloney that is required is there, enabling people to access what they want in a wide area world. Putting them together, it's the information utility at your fingertips, and we see this as a real advantage for our customers and ourselves.